everyone, this is Emily Jane Acree.
And Adam Price.
And you're listening to the Relative Rhythms Podcast.
Today, we are excited to introduce to you trumpet player, tap dancer, singer, and all-around entertainer, Lonnie McFadden.
Lonnie has toured the world as a sideman, as a co-leader with his late brother Ronald and the McFadden brothers, and as a solo act. He has shared the stage with countless legends, including the Count Basie Orchestra, Sammy Davis Jr., and Calloway. In 2016, he and his brother Ronald McFadden both received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Jazz Museum.
Currently, he performs every weekend in Kansas City, fronting the house band at a jazz club named in his honor, Lonnie's Reno Club.
We talk about the rich jazz history of Kansas City, his mentorship by his father, Jimmy McFadden, who was a professional tap dancer during the big band era, his many years on the road, the deep connection of jazz music and tap dance, and the responsibility of musicians and entertainers to their audience.
This interview was a straight-up masterclass, and we hope you will enjoy it as much as we did.
Please welcome to the podcast, Lonnie McFadden.
Lonnie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So we ask everyone who comes on our show kind of how they first came to their art form. Now, you're an amazing tap dancer and trumpet player and singer, so kind of a triple threat. What did you come to first, and how did you kind of grow from there?
Well, the tap dancing definitely came first because my father was a tap dancer from the big band era, and when he was raising my brother and I, he showed us how to tap dance. I'm going to be honest with you. It was basically just playtime with my dad. I didn't know I was learning anything that everybody on the planet didn't do until later on when I got to be about, it's weird to say later on, and I'm getting ready to say when I was about 5 years old. but yeah. So I guess I must have started learning when I was maybe 3 or 4, because it was just playtime with Dad. He'd say, "Hey man, try this," and he'd do some little thing, and then after we would get it, he would make it like we won the Super Bowl. Every time his friends, hey Lonnie, show him, and so we always wanted to learn another step, and that was until, like I said, I was about 5 years old. Then we started actually practicing. They bought us the little shiny patent leather shoes with the taps on it, and I hated it.
Oh no!
Oh, when it was like practice, all of my friends was outside playing football in the street or in the backyard. We'd have to come in from playing with our friends because time to practice, and I'm like, I don't want to do this, but it's what led to me being able to do everything I do now, because by me being self-employed, if I didn't have the discipline that, like right now, I'm in my rehearsal studio. If I wasn't on the phone talking to you, I'd be blowing this right now. And that's a daily ritual that I go through that started when I was 5 years old because of my father. Okay, time to practice. I'm like, so that was the beginning, the tap dancing. The trumpet came later, and that came in a way from peer pressure. It's interesting. See, I grew up in the inner city in the 1960s, and so tap dancing was not popular at that time. And at the same time he started practicing with his tap dancing, my brother and I both were taking private lessons on the piano. So we took piano lessons, but when we got to junior high school, you're preteen, you're 11, you're 12 years old, you're starting to like girls, and it wasn't nothing cool about being this little nerdy piano player, playing these classical pieces, and definitely not being a tap dancer. So we completely quit tap dancing, quit taking piano lessons. I picked up the trumpet. My brother picked up the alto saxophone. And then back then, it was James Brown. So we started gravitating toward that. We had learned music theory from playing piano. So after we learned the mechanics of the saxophone and the trumpet, we excelled real quick. Like trumpet came from peer pressure, tap dancing came from heredity, singing came because I didn't want to lose the gig. I was 16 years old. I got recruited by this real popular band here in Kansas City. They were like the best jazz/R&B band at the time. They were all like 21, 22 years old. Even though I was 16, their trumpet player, something happened where they needed a trumpet player. Long story short, he got me in his band. We were learning songs. It was this one song he wanted me to sing. And I said, I don't want to sing. He said, no, well, everybody in the band has to sing. I said, well, I don't sing. I'm not going to sing. I just want to play. He said, well, if you want to be in the band, you're going to learn this song. I was like, I'm an ever-rolling wheel. I'm like, I'm going to be in the band. That's not an option here. So so I started singing at like 16, well, not like, at 16 years old. Okay. I started trying to sing. I mean, my dad when we were little and we did our first gig, I was 7 years old.
Wow.
He had us doing something that could loosely be defined as singing. I remember Ronald and I was saying, hey, look me over, lend me an ear, fresh out of clover, mortgage up to here. Don't pass the plate, folks. Don't pass the cup. Remember, whenever you're down and out, the only way is up and out. I mean, it's really, it was so corny. It was so corny. But my dad got us into vaudeville, basically, because that was his thing. And so that was our first gigs. We were singing, so to speak, but we really were tap dancing because my dad was a heck of a hoofer.
So you quit tap dancing in high school. When did you come back to it?
Again, everything, if I think this needs to be the title to my book, just whatever it takes to keep the gig. Because here's what happened. After I was with Clyde and her for about a year and a half, I got lonesome because Ronald was, you see, I dropped out of high school and went on the road with these guys.
Oh, wow.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so we worked our way barnstorming, just like you hear about the Negro League baseball players. Well, that was still going on for African-American musicians for years. And so when I was with Clyde and her, I was 16 years old, so it's like 1972, something like that. And so I dropped out of high school. I'm on the road, and I'd been gone ever since Christmas. I turned 17 on the road with them.
Wow.
Christmas of my 16. I turned 17 with them. So Christmas in 72, then 73 out there with them. And then by the time summertime came, because I'm 17 years old. Everybody's 21, 22. I'm playing in nightclubs every night. And, I missed my brother. I really missed. Me and Ronald had always done everything. Boy Scouts, baseball. We learned our first jazz songs together. I'd be trying to play the Dizzy Gillespie part. He'd play the Charlie Parker part. And, we came up through everything together. So it really got, I had no peers. I had no peers that I was around. When you're 17, you need to be around other 17-year-olds. Everybody doesn't need to be 22, 32, 42. Yeah. And that's the world I was in. And so eventually it got, I want to start my own band. So it was like I had to be July or August because it was right before school started again. And I told Clyde I need to come back to Kansas City. I stuck around for about 3 weeks for him to find somebody, and I helped break them in and get them into, the stuff we were doing. Came back to Kansas City, and I started my band. And that's, what was the question? I'm all over the place. I feel
How you came back to tap?
How I came back to tap. Okay. Here's the way I came back to tap. Is because after we started our band, Lonnie and the band, after we were like a year and a half into it, I got a call from Clyde. He was still out in Las Vegas, and he had two options to go overseas, and he was gonna recommend us to do the one he decided not to do. He decided to go over to Europe. They were going to Paris, I think, and his other offer was coming from Kyoto, Japan. So he told him about us.
Nice,
amazing,
dude.
amazing.
Yeah. So we had to say, you all love this, because back then we were recording everything on a reel-to-reel. I still got it over here. A reel-to-reel.
Oh, that's amazing.
Can you
That's
see it?
awesome.
Yeah.
A reel-to-reel tape recorder. 4-track reel-to-reel tape recorder. We were recording everything on that, and then we drop it down to a cassette. I don't know if you already know about those. Okay.
Oh,
cassette. Cassette.
Nice.
So we recorded 4 tracks, and we were in my mom and dad's basement recording all this stuff, drop it down to a cassette, send it to them. We get the gig.
Wow.
Okay, so it's our first real gig. Everybody in my band just graduated high school.
Wow.
I was 19. The rest of the guys were 18, except it was the drummer. He was 20. We went over to Japan. They literally walked across the stage in June to graduate high school, and then it was either September or October we went to Japan.
How amazing.
4 months.
That's so cool.
4 months.
Now,
Cool.
I'm giving you the long story, but what happened when we got to Japan, because as you know, if it don't matter if you're Charlie Parker, if you Taylor Swift, the name of the game is you have to have your own thing. You have to be you. And so even though we were playing in clubs here in Kansas City, what was making us stand out is we had our own sound. So how do you do that? You in order to get the gigs, you got to play the songs people want to dance to. So we playing Kool and the Gang and Earth, Wind and Fire and all the stuff, but we had our own arrangements. In Osaka, Japan, that didn't help us because the people could not speak the language. They loved the music, they loved the records, but they wanted a band that sounded just like the record. And most of their bands were coming from LA, and they were just recycling these. Everybody sounded like everybody else. We didn't. So it was a blessing and a curse. And we were over there, we not used to this because we used to killing. We got over there and we getting a very mediocre response.
Yeah.
We had a Philippine band that is usually, that's the number. This is the American band, the Philippine band, and the Japanese band. It goes on all night. You know, we were playing from like 7 o'clock at night till 5 in the morning. It's 3 bands you shift, you sharing the stage with. And this is 7 days a week. We had 1 day off a month.
Wow.
One day off a month.
1 day off a month.
For 4 months.
Yeah. For 4 months.
That's hardcore.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so after we were there for a few days and we realized we're not getting over too far, and we thinking, damn, because we're from the States and the bottom line, if you're not drawing, you gonna get fired. We had been fired before. We knew what that felt like. So me and Ronald, my brother, all of us, we trying to figure out how we're gonna do this, because we can't change all the arrangements. We still gotta have something, because when we go back to the States, like back then there you say back to the world, you gotta be on top of your game, and I can't be sounding just like, I can't do a stylistic song just like the style. That's nobody's gonna care, You got the stylistics. So Ronald and I don't know if it was him or me that said, what if we started tap dancing? And now we don't have no tap shoes. But what if we started doing those same tap routines that Daddy showed us as kids, and we did it to this disco stuff?
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah. Now, mind you, we wearing platform shoes. We got, this is the 70s, baby.
Wow.
It was the bicentennial year, 1976.
Amazing.
So we got on these baggy pants and the platform shoes.
The platform
5-inch
shoes.
high platform shoes, and we doing this pop locking kind of stuff, and we jump, and so all of a sudden, in the middle of it, Ronald and I jump out in the dance floor. We threw the microphones on the floor and started hitting it. And the buddy, and just because rhythm is still rhythm. Mm-hmm. So instead of us doing it to a swing beat, we started accenting it a different way that will make it funky. So and the drummers do they loved it. And that is when Ronald and I, and the interesting thing, because you figure we hadn't tap danced since we were 12 and 13 years old. Now we're 18 and 19, and we just that afternoon decided to try it, and that night we did it, and I mean, no practice or nothing. We
just came right
went
back
in and said, "Okay, test it." And they loved it so much that became part of Lonnie and the band's trademark, and so then we started getting serious about it and started really practicing, and eventually Ronald took, because I was just into being the band leader. Ronald started studying. He started going to the library, because this is before Betamax and VHS came out, when Ronald started, and he was going to the library looking up all these old hoofers that my father told him about when we got to Kansas City. He said, "Man, check out Baby Lawrence. You got to check out John Bubbles. Go all the way back to Bojangles, Bill." So Ronald is researching this, and he couldn't figure it. He said, so my dad took Ronald to one of his friends that used to be part of the Chocolate Drops when he was with when they had their dance group. And his name was Willie Williams. He's a lifelong best friend of my father. So Ronald went over to his house, and he wouldn't do nothing. My dad said, "Hey man, next time we go over there, we stop at the liquor store. You buy him half a pint of wine. He likes wine." Ronald, he's standing there talking, and Willie gets up and starts there. And all of a sudden, because he was nervous, because he hadn't danced probably in 20 or 30 years. Right. He didn't know if he could still dance. But he got a little of that wine in him, and he's starting to hit all this stuff, this fast stuff like Baby Lawrence. Wow. And now he's getting cocky. And Ronald's like, hey, Willie, show me that. And he's, "F you, mother, still it," and we loving it. And I'm cracking up. I'm like, this is so animated, because that's the way they didn't toddle us. Mm-hmm. "Fuck you, mother," and I'm cracking up. And Ronald's like, "Hey, well, okay, do it again. I'll steal it." And that's Ronald got into it. So, long story short, again, after Lonnie and the band lasted for 10 years. By then, everybody's starting to get older. You're getting married. We hitting and missing. You got a wife at home. She ain't hearing that I don't have a gig for 3 weeks. Sure. So people are having to get day jobs. They taking side jobs with other bands and stuff. And the band's basically breaking up. Ronald and I went on the road with Bloodstone for a few months. And so when the band broke up, and after we didn't have nothing, I didn't know what to do. And Ronald suggested, let's go back to where we started. And I didn't even know how to approach that, but in the meantime, I'm leaving out quite a bit in that 10 years we were together. Ronald, like I said, he started studying. He started getting with Willie Williams, this guy, Cornell Lyons from Kansas City. He's part of the tap dance tradition. He was with a group of tap dancers from Kansas City called the Businessmen of Rhythm, spinning trays and tap dancing. And he was a good friend of my father's. So when he came back to Kansas City, my dad had died by then, but he looked up my mom. And my mom said, "Oh, well, Ronald's really it." So Ronald had started learning all this Baby Lawrence and and all this Teddy Hill, all this other kind of stuff that there was a more bebop style than my father had taught. My father's dancing was like Bojangles and John Bubbles. That was my dad's era. But then you come right after him with Sammy Davis and them. Sammy Davis, matter of fact, Sammy Davis is exactly 10 years younger than my dad. They were on the RKO circuit together in the Chitlin circuit, the black, anyway. A lot of stories. I mean, I digress. I'm sorry. But the tap dancing got really serious, to go back to the original question, after we thought we were going to lose our gig in Japan, and Ronald and I started back.
Wow. So y'all never went to like school for music or dance. You just learned on the road. Yeah.
Well, we it's interesting because that question, and I know you guys know about the performing arts, so it won't be surprising to you. But I learned from one of the masters. Right. I learned from my father. Right. My father was on the road with Sammy Davis, with Honey Coles. He was one of them. When I first went to New York, and Ronald and I were at a jam session at Smiles at like 2:00 in the morning in New York. Nice. Honey Coles and all those guys walked. It was Honey Coles, it was Buster. It wasn't Chuck Green. Oh God, I can't remember. But it was 4 of the old hoofers that I had seen in documentaries, and my dad had. Anyway, we met them when we came off stage, and we started talking about, yeah, Dad used to tell us about you guys and blah, blah, blah. And what's your dad's name? He said, you Jimmy, son? And so Honey Coles rented a studio in oh God, I wish Ronald was here because I can't. Anyway, Honey Coles rented this studio. He said, hey man, tomorrow we getting together and we gonna dance. And you better be able to swing. I heard what y'all did with them horns. I want to see what you can do with the feet. Nice. And that's how we met him. And from that, cause we were just hanging out in New York. We didn't have a gig enough. We were just hanging out. Okay. Because we were being booked by Count Basie Enterprises. And the guy that was our manager that was booking us through them said, look, you guys need to spend some time in New York. I'm going to put you all up at the Edison Hotel, and I want you to just do what you do. Wow. And we had no instructions. He said, just get out, meet people. And so every night we was going to hang. We knew some musicians from, the jazz stuff. Sure. Guys that used to be with Art Blakey, with Friends of Ours and stuff. They was telling about. So after we went to do this jam session with Honey Coles, it was another girl that was up there, and she was enamored with Honey Coles, and she's wondering, who are these guys, these young guys from, that's dancing with Honey? And and she watched us, and after we finished, she came and met us and said, I just made a phone call over to the producers with Black and Blue. I told them they got to see you all. Do you all feel like doing an audition? Yeah. That's why we came to New York, to get to know people. So that led, 2 days later, we did an audition for Black and Blue, and we got it. And wow. We also, behind that, somebody else that was in the tap dance community, this one girl that knew, that I can't remember if she was in Black and Blue or she knew him, but she'd never heard. So anyway, that's how we got introduced to the hoofers in New York. And then she told Henry Latang about us. Henry Latang invited us to the, and mind you, it wasn't no cell phones back then. Right. So all we do is give people the number at the Hotel Edison. Wow. Just ask for Lonnie McFadden or Ronald McFadden. Yeah. And so we come in one day, and it's a phone call from Henry Latang. Hey, I hear you guys are hoofers, blah, blah. I got a show that I'm thinking about doing, and I want to meet you guys. Come on up to the studio, so-and-so. So we get his number. Cool. We go meet Henry Latang and dance for him. He falls in love with us and likes us and stuff. So he turns us on to a gig with Calloway. We We also get a gig in Santiago, Chile, because of that. And after we do the television show in Santiago, Chile, somebody sees us and we now, we just giving everybody Aaron Woodward. He was one booking us out of Count Basie Enterprises. Giving Aaron that number. That led to us going to Aruba for 5 weeks at a time, which that ain't a bad gig at all. Aruba. And like I said, we did this gig with Calloway in Iceland.
Tell me about this Cab Calloway gig. What's that all about?
That was great. See, Cab Calloway did a Cotton Club, because he just done that movie about the Blues Brothers with the Blues Brothers and all that stuff. I still got a signed picture from him,
awesome.
when we did that.
Cool.
From the Blues, and he put together. It was a Cotton Club review. Henry Latang was choreographing it. So
cool.
So when they called us back to New York for rehearsal, we thought we were just going to be the McFadden brothers, but we were part of the chorus. That was, again,
interesting.
I'm not going to lose the gig.
Yeah, no, man.
I'll be what you want me to be.
Hey, so we were part of the dancers, and then later on, Cab Calloway featured us as the McFadden brothers. Now, his first time actually seeing us was the day of sound check over in Iceland, and we did our act, and he cut most of it. He said, I'll let them play, I'll let them tap dance, but they ain't doing no singing. Again.
Okay.
Wow.
Whatever we got to do. Yeah, but having said that, I don't want to leave it like I think Cab Calloway was an asshole. He was just protecting his turf.
Sure.
He was, we these upcoming 30-something-year-old hotshot guys, and he's probably in his 70s. I don't know how old he was, but he gained weight, and he was the headliner. He's Cab Calloway.
Right.
And so he didn't want to have to compete with that. He wanted a spark in the show, which was like when he was at the Cotton Club, and it was the Nicholas brothers. So that pertained. He didn't mind us blowing our brains out, because, again, it was always, he was with his orchestra, he always had somebody that could play. So that didn't bother him. But here's the thing. He was one of he loved us. I think we reminded him of old school, you know. And so we doing these dance things, but everybody would gravitate to our room after the gig, and we'd sit up playing cards all night. Me and Ronald, and all the girls, and maybe I think it was two of the guys too, but all the girls and me and Ronald and two of the guys, and Cab Calloway after the second night, he said, we standing, they getting ready to open the show, we backstage, and he came up to me and Ronald. He said, man, if them damn McFadden brothers don't stop making all that motherfucking noise, and we just start cracking up. And he hugged us. He said, I love you guys, but y'all got to give me a break. I got to get my rest. I said, you got it. You got it, Mr. Calloway. But he said, no, but I feel you. I was you. So, it was good. It was real good.
is the Relative Rhythms podcast, and you're listening to our conversation with Lonnie McFadden. This project is a labor of love, and we are currently funded entirely by our listeners. If you'd like to support our work, you can do so by joining our Patreon, where you can find extra content and listen to the full uncut interviews. Go to patreon.com/relativerhythms to subscribe and support our work. Thank you to our current monthly Patreon supporters. We are so grateful for you. Thanks for listening, and now back to our conversation with Lonnie. So when you were doing the McFadden brothers, you toured with Sammy Davis at some point too, right?
We didn't tour with Sammy. We did a gig with it. When we were in St. Louis, we were doing a play about our father. It was called Steps.
Yes, I wanted to ask about that.
Boy. Yeah, a guy wrote this play about how we basically. My father died after we were into the play for about 4 months. It was in, I think, February of '85, something like that. And about a month later, Sammy Davis came through St. Louis. The guy that owned the show, he was doing a telethon. The guy that owned the Goldenrod Showboat where we were playing at and that wrote the play knew the people that were producing the show, and he told them, he said, well, Jimmy McFadden's sons are the ones that's doing Steps, the Pops McFadden story. I'd like you to mention that to Sammy because he was on the road with Sammy when Sammy was a kid.
Wow. And
maybe Sammy will remember him. Sammy called us. He said, yeah, I want you guys to be on telethon. And in the meantime, you know, when local people do those telethons, I don't know if you guys have ever done them, but the local people, they shoot the star, whether out in L.A. or in this year, it was the case, it was in St. Louis, Sammy Davis, wherever the star is at, they get prime time. The local people, they switch back to, and then you have your local television stations, and you come on at whatever's not prime time. You know, I mean, 5 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning. But then when they go to Jerry Lewis and you say, hey, Sammy, what you got over there in St. Louis? When that's going on, that's like between 5 in the evening to 8 or 9 at night Central Time. Sammy put us on at that time. And the band did our arrangement. We did Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got the Swing. I can't even do. I mean, we jumping, doing the splits and spinning and, you know, I mean, I can't even do all that now. But, yeah, we did that, but we did, and then, you know, later on we toured with Wayne Newton. We did some gigs with Tony Orlando, a lot of different people.
Cool.
You know.
I do have one question about your father, if you don't mind me asking. I keep reading that his name is Smiley. Can we talk about that?
Smiling Jimmy. That's the easy one. I mean, my dad, if he was here right now, he'd be like, if he come in, hey man, how y'all doing? And I mean, he always had a one-liner for anything. He was old school vaudeville. Yeah, like you've heard people like Rodney Dangerfield and Red Fox, all these one-liners, so bada bing, da da da. I mean, he could go on and on. One-liners, just, hey, and so and so and so and so about any. You be talking about something, say, yeah, I remember when so and so, blah blah, and then, I mean, what? That was my dad, and
that's awesome.
And he was always smiling. I mean, he was an old song and dance man. He would be, you know, at the height of his career, you know, he was the MC and. He was actually the producer because he would book the talent and he would sing and he would tap dance, you know, but that was his stage persona, Smiling Jimmy. That was his stage name. He didn't go by James McFadden or Jimmy McFadden. Smiling Jimmy. That was his thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. Thanks. I was like, I know this is going to be a good story. I want to hear this one.
If he was still alive, you all would be, Lonnie, why don't you go have a drink of water or something? Mr. McFadden, let's talk. I mean, because he had a lot of great, that's what made me want to be a tap dancer. The stories he would tell me about, and I mean, he didn't sugarcoat it. You know, because when he came up, they had to go in the back door. You know, he wasn't able, like the club that's named after me, Lonnie's Reno Club. The original Reno Club, my father performed there, but he couldn't go in the front door.
Wow.
And so my father didn't sugarcoat it, but here's the thing. Even though he would give us the facts and the information, he always said jokes about it. I mean, one of the things I remember him telling me about is when they part of their act, they would start the act with, "Rhythm is my business. Rhythm is what we say. Rhythm is my business. They sing, of course, and then they go into they stuff, the chocolate jar. He said, and they was in Chicago. I can't remember Chicago or Detroit. They were playing for this mafia guy, and he said after the first night, the guy called him off. He said, "Hey, that all that talking in the front, y'all cut all that." In other words, he didn't like the way they sang. He said, so we didn't do no singing anymore. You know, he said, "Hey, y'all cut out all that talking. Just do the dancing. Why'd you to dance?"
Wow.
My damn
wow.
He said, so they didn't like the way we sang too much.
Wow.
Wow.
Wild.
Oh, man.
And he told us about stories that where something would go wrong with the show and they ended up stranded. And again, it was always up Midwestern up east, Detroit, Chicago, Philly, Boston. They were New York. And I can't remember what city this was in, but they got fired in some city and they didn't have a gig till the next week. And he was telling us about living off peanuts and Pepsi Cola and standing on the corner every night, getting dressed up. And to me, it was like, in my mind, it was like a movie. And so I wanted to be one of them. I mean, even now, these are my idols: Charlie Parker, Nat Cole, Sammy Davis, Frank Sinatra. Yeah, and I grew up listening to James Brown and the Beatles. So I got all of this smorgasbord of ways to be an entertainer, and that's kind of what I do, you know, right now. But yeah, my father's times it wasn't anything about it that I would be able to find any humor out of, knowing what I know.
Yeah.
But him and his friends, they'd sit on the front porch with a can of beer and be laughing and telling me and my brother all these stories. Yeah, Jimmy, remember so and so, and I loved it. So I wanted to be one of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. That's so cool.
So you're a trumpet player, a tap dancer, and a singer, somehow finding time to practice all of it. And on top of that, you own a club.
Well, the
On
thing
top
of
of
it
that,
is,
which you opened during COVID.
yes, we did. We did open November. Well, again, since we're talking and you all like stories, the way that came about is because, again, I'm one, I got to figure out how to get the gig. You figure in 2020, in March here in Kansas City, everything shut down.
Sure.
And actually it was March, it was the week of St. Patrick's Day. I'll never, because I was booked up. I was the first time since I've been booked as Lonnie McFadden that I was booked up for the whole year. And all of a sudden, everything came to a screeching halt. And so by the time June got here, I'm doing once a week streams, live streams from my wife's church, because the church is empty.
Sure.
She said you can use the church. So I set up anyway. So that's all I'm doing. I get a call when things are starting to let up a little bit from the Ambassador Hotel. The food and beverage manager tried to explain the situation about having a upscale nightclub outside. And he said, come down. Excuse me, I want to show it to you. I get down there. He takes me out to the parking lot. And, you know, we got on masks, everybody is during that time. And it was the most unique thing I'd ever seen. They had just changed the carpet in the hotel. So he used that carpet. It was nice carpet. Out in the park, the whole parking lot had carpet. They had these high top tables with black tablecloths on them, leather furniture going down the center, leather couches and stuff.
In the parking lot.
In the parking lot.
Oh, this is
They
amazing.
turned the parking lot into an upscale restaurant.
That's
He said, we want to have live entertainment, and we want to know if you would try it. I'm like, yeah. Hey,
Yep.
I'm
Get
ready
the
to
gig.
play. I'll play anywhere. That's
Wow, how
always
cool.
been my thing. I just want to play.
Yeah.
So I go there. He said, okay, we're going to give you 2 weeks to see if it works. It's a new thing, And so I go there the first week, and it's packed. It's packed as it can be, because it's COVID. They got to space people out. But it was still like 80 people when I get there to the parking lot. So
Wow.
he's excited. He's blown away. Next week, the guy that owns the hotel is in town. He said, and this, he usually comes in and does his meetings. He goes to his house or whatever he has in Kansas City and stays there. And the guy said, no, you got to see this guy. He comes and sees me. I don't know it. I finished the first set, and one of the people that work at the hotel comes and said, Lonnie, the guy that owns the hotel is here. He wants to meet you. When I go to his table, he puts on his mask, takes me in the hotel. I notice the hotel's empty. Nobody's.
Sure.
You got one person behind the desk, period. Halls, everything's empty. He takes me downstairs. He's explaining to me about this room that he hasn't used. We get downstairs, the whole lower level, and then we walk in there, and it's these two big steel doors. He opens, it's this big event space. Mm-hmm. He said, I haven't used this in about 3 years, and I'm thinking about opening a 1920s, 1930s Prohibition-style nightclub. And he asked me if I could see the vision. As I just showed you, I know a lot about Kansas City's history. My dad is so I start rattling off about all these bands, these nightclubs, the jam sessions that went on, and all that kind of stuff. He said, "Whoa, I love this." He said, "Where would you?" And so he said, "Okay, where would you put the band?" Immediately I could. He said, and so he's looking around, and I'm excited because I'm thinking about the old, like y'all see how I get.
I love it.
So I started talking about food and furniture, and he's looking around. He said, whoa, wait a minute. He said, we're gonna do exactly that, and we're gonna name it after you.
Wow.
Wow.
How
I
cool.
had never met
so
this
cool.
man in my life.
Wow.
He said, look, he said, as a matter of fact, I want you to give it the full name. He said, you name it Lonnie's Harlem Club, Lonnie's Cotton Club, anything you want to name it. Here's and I'm thinking maybe he's a little, I mean, nobody meets you.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Right.
1 hour and says, we're going to name a club after you. Me and you going to be partners.
Right.
I mean, so I didn't think he was serious, but I was excited. But on the way upstairs, he gave me his card and he wrote his personal cell phone. Matter of fact, I still got the first note that he gave me at the end of the evening. I've saved it because one day I'm going to remind him of it. I never have got rid. This is a note he hand wrote and gave it to the waitresses and told her to give this to Lonnie. Before he leaves, because he left before I hit the last note. But he wanted me to know I'm not playing.
Cool.
So I was supposed to call him Tuesday with the name. So I started thinking about all these clubs that I got these advertisements from my dad's era.
Yeah.
I kept coming back to the Reno Club because the history was so amazing. That's where Count Basie got discovered. That's where that great jam session that it's over sensationalized. And they talk about in Whiplash. They talk about, when Joe Jones gongs Charlie Parker, and almost decapitated him. And yeah, I mean, he did gong Charlie Parker, and it did happen at the Reno Club, but no, it wasn't a violent. It was one of the old heads teasing the young guy. Mm. Charlie Parker was back the next night, so I had heard about that, but it was just one of the many stories. So when I started hearing about all these people, and it shamed him, and it's like, it ain't shame him. He took it for the joke it was, packed up his horn, and went next door. And then he was back next night. So anyway, that's how the name of the club came about. After I started thinking about all these places here in Kansas City, the Reno Club has so much history that I could talk about from stage, because everybody knows Count Basie. Everybody's,
Right.
they've heard about that time Charlie
Yeah.
Parker got gone. My father used to tap dance there. I mean,
That's so
Mary
cool.
Lou Williams, Hot Lips Page, Lester Young. So when I called him Tuesday morning, he told me call him. I called him first thing in the morning. I mean, I was so excited. He just started laughing. He said, Lonnie, slow down. And I was like, okay, here's the thing. He said, okay, he said, here's the thing, Lonnie. We definitely gonna do this. This is gonna be open by Thanksgiving, I guarantee you.
Wow.
And this was the end of July by this time, something like that. Yeah. And he said, I'm going to get with my team. We're going to put some things together. We're going to do exactly what I told you we're going to do that first night I met you. And you get with your team, and I don't have a team. He said, I'll get with my people.
Yeah.
You get with your people.
Have your people call my people.
Yeah, this will be a short conversation with my group. This is an easy meeting. And so about 2 weeks later, he called the first meeting. We started talking about everything. And he and I have been partners on this from that.
Nice. So
That's awesome.
you're the house band then for the club?
Yeah, I'm the house band.
Nice.
And I'm easy to find now.
Yeah.
I mean, before COVID, I was all over the city. I was playing from 4 to 6 nights a week, every week.
Wow.
And it was all over the place. Well,
Yeah.
now I'm at Lonnie's Reno Club every Friday and Saturday. And
That's cool, man.
it's a great life. It is.
Yeah,
It's a great
yeah.
life.
Yeah.
I mean, you all into the arts. Y'all know.
Yeah.
This is what's up.
I think I love watching you talk about it. You're so clearly so passionate about it, and I think I'm in my early 30s now, but I talk to my students who are coming up as teenagers, and I'm like, you have to be able to shift and find the next gig. You got to find the next gig, and maybe it's not always going to be exactly what you imagined, but if you learn how to shift and take what's coming to you, it'll keep going. You just got to keep going. And I feel like you're just a beautiful example of being like, you have a gig, great, yeah, I'll take it. And
Well, obviously,
just,
I agree.
yes,
with you.
and
I do.
Yeah.
That's so. Yeah. I agree. You got a gig, I'll take it. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. If I can play the trumpet, and I've told people that I'm the leader because I had no choice. I don't have an ego. I'll be happy to play fourth trumpet in your band if you pay me. I want.
Yep.
My bottom line is easy. I want to play music and keep the lights on. If that means playing fourth trumpet in Johnny Bobo's big band, I'm the guy. That's what I could not agree with you more, Emily. Whatever the gig is, if it's a gig, I'm doing it.
Yeah. I love that.
It is what it is.
I have so much more to ask you, and especially about all the history. Just before we let you go, I'm curious. Do you approach singing versus trumpet versus your tap? Do you approach them differently? Do you either in like performance or practice?
Well, I give you the approach to learning how to become better at each one of them is different.
Okay.
And none of them help the other. It's like me tap dancing does not make me a better trumpet player. Me being a trumpet player does not make me a better singer because, and you notice this now that I'm telling you, it's something about I don't know if it's your embouchure or the way you have to do your tongue and everything to make notes on the trumpet. You'll notice it's very rare to listen to any trumpet player talk, black or white, that doesn't have a raspy voice. They have a very raspy voice. All of them. Wynton Marsalis, Dizzy Gillespie, Louis Armstrong. I can go on. Of course, Miles Davis, he blew his voice out. But every trumpet player, you know, they have somewhat of a rasp. So it makes my voice naturally, if I don't do the warm-ups for singing, and all that kind of stuff, my voice will not be clear to be like, yeah, so when I wake up every day, I sound like this. And if I don't, I sound like, that's how I talk, you know. And that's what naturally will happen. And with the tap dancing, now that I'm older, now here's something, I used to take a lot of tap dancing for granted because I learned at such an early age, certain things I could automatically do because I was so physically fit.
Right.
But at my age now, I practice every day. I don't practice for 5 and 6 hours every day, but I put in an average on the days that I'm not performing. On Fridays and Saturdays, I don't practice dancing. I still practice trumpet, but I don't practice dancing. But on Monday, like today, I'll give my granddaughter a lesson. After I finish with her, I'll go down to the Reno Club and I'll practice on me. It'll probably be very light. On Mondays, I give myself a chance to get, because on Sundays, I don't. So on Mondays, tomorrow, I'll go hard. Wednesday, I'll go hard. Thursday, I'll go hard. Because I know Friday and Saturday, I don't have a choice. I gotta go.
Right. Yeah.
Now, the one thing that does relate with all three of them, my approach to performance, is one rule that I got from me: tell a story. If I'm singing a song, I want to tell the story. I'm not trying to do any vocal acrobatics. You know, I just want to relay the message. I don't know if I got a good voice. I don't know if it's going to be. I do know this: I'm okay at telling the story. And with the trumpet, I don't think I'm one of the greatest trumpet players I've ever heard by a long shot. But I do know how, because my dad always Hammond and all them old guys, when I was going to the foundation trying to, he said, "What was that?" Yeah. I said, "Why is it?" "No, but you're not saying nothing." And he would see people on TV that I think was fantastic. He used to be back listening. He said, "Yeah, but he ain't say. He sounds like he practices a lot, but he ain't saying." And my dad could show. I mean, he would tap me. It's never a point in the way that my dad danced, and because of that, the way that I dance, that somebody will think, shuffle ball change for lap, but dig back at that. You would never. All you're gonna hear is boom, pop, pop, boom. It's gonna say something. It has to say something. If it doesn't, if I start dancing and you all don't eventually start doing this, I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong. If I'm playing the trumpet, if I'm doing boom, boom, boom. If a person knows the words, if they wasn't in their mind hearing, "My funny Valentine, you make me smile." If they don't hear that, I didn't do it right in my mind. So the one thing that the dancing, the singing, and the playing, all for me, my concept, and it's because of them old heads, Jimmy McFadden, my dad, Jimmy Russian, anybody that I ran into that was them old heads, man, you got to say something. You have to say something. I heard Jimmy Slide say that in an interview he was talking. He said, you have to be interesting. You have to say something intelligent, and still you must swing. I'm like that. That's it. Yes, I agree with that. What Jimmy said.
What Jimmy said.
That's what my goal is. And when I'm practicing, I'm trying to play all the skills. I'm trying to hit as many high to make sure I can do it. Again, that's making sure I got the vocabulary so I can say something intelligent. If I don't have the vocabulary, I can't say nothing. So that's what the practicing is for, to get the chops to go on stage. And I might not use half of the things I can do. Not even, because I'm not there to show off. It's not about with me. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with people that do that. I'm just saying, Lonnie, my job for what I'm trying to do is to help you, the audience, to have an enjoyable evening. So it's not about me. You didn't come here to see me show off. You came here because you on a date with your wife, or you on a date with your favorite guy, or you've heard about jazz and you want to hear something interesting, something artistic, but it's not really that you want to see me show off. You know, if I can do, you know, who gives a damn? I mean, other than me, it's good for my ego.
Sure.
And I'll do that at practice because I want to make sure my ankles, I got that speed. But if I'm going to dance to all of me, I'm because see, in my mind, you still supposed to be hearing all of me while I'm dancing. If in my mind, because the band's just playing stop time, there's June. So in my mind, what I'm doing, the people are supposed to still be hearing doom doom doom. Doom, 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 doom. So when I'm dancing, I'm not trying to I'm trying to do something that's all of me. Boom, 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 that, because that's what makes me smile.
That's beautiful. Yeah. There's, so much wisdom in those words. I think this is something that Adam and I talk about a lot.
We just attended such a big master class.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I do. I am, and this is something that I am starting to embrace. I do think that I'm kind of like a conduit between the guys that were the old heads that passed it to me. I really hope that I say something that you guys in your generation will say, yeah, if I do that, if I just say one thing today that does that, I did a good thing. I really believe that. I mean, I'm not going to be here forever. So if I can drop a nugget here or there that was very freely given to me, this is not my wisdom. This is things I've learned from people that went through things that I will never have to go through them. So if I can do something or say something that will help you in a way that you never have to, oh man, yeah.
You make me cry, Lonnie. You make me cry.
So much wisdom.
I don't know. I'm having fun though.
Appreciate you and your generosity.
Thank you so much. So much wisdom, so many nuggets.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you guys for having me.
You've been listening to our conversation with Lonnie McFadden. To learn more about Lonnie and his music, you can go to LonnieMcFadden.com or follow him on the socials at LonnieMcFadden_jazz.
You can listen to his music on all the streaming platforms, or even better, you can see him live every weekend at Lonnie's Reno Club in downtown Kansas City.
If you liked our episode today, please give our podcast a follow and a review wherever you are listening. This conversation in particular was an absolute joy, and it went way over an hour. It was very difficult to cut down, but if you'd like to hear the full, uncut interview, you can do so at our Patreon. It is a great way to support us and help us continue our work.
Our opening theme, For the Love of It, was composed by Adam. Our mid-roll music was In the Basement, off of Lonnie's album Live at Green Lady Lounge. Our closing music is Tap in the Blues, off the same album.
Thank you so much for listening. And as a personal request from Lonnie, we are going to leave you with his track, Jazz is the Heart and the Soul of Kansas City, featuring his daughter Lonnie A. McFadden off of his album I Believe in Music.
Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next episode.
Talking KC, that 1 o'clock jump, William Count Basie. Started back in the day, by the caps for tap shoes. Money happened to be scarce, so they did what they had to. As long as they had music, they really could care less. We'd make the Duke Ellingtons in the winter Marcellus. 12th and Vine was the club, Bebop was the sound. And if you asked who's the king, Charlie Parker had the crown. Kansas City, it's old but pretty as gold, like a gypsy. There was no school, no one had any lessons. They battled out their skills in late night jam sessions. Miles Davis, the innovator of music, by far the best musician down in East St. Louis. When it came to the music, trumpet was his craft. Later tried to mix rock and pop with jazz. Then came Louis Armstrong, 9 cent syllables. Imitators came, but Satchmo was the original. But Casey didn't always have the jazz, you see. It actually came straight from New Orleans. But when it came, we had to make it like no other. And soon Casey birthed the McFadden brothers. Hip-hop took hold one after another. Now hip-hop has a savvy young lover.